so much for the welcome. Hi, everybody. Thank you to the MEF team for welcoming us to your space. I want to tell you about the Giga Initiative. So we work as a type of startup within the United Nations system. We have two fundamental UN agencies working in this space. On the one hand, we have UNICEF with its expertise in children, youth, education, present in 190 countries, and we then partner with the ITU, International Telecommunications Union, which I'm sure you're very familiar with. It's these two agencies that really come together to look at this challenge that we have, which is to connect every school in the world by 2030. So really what I want to talk about is these dots. It's all about the dots where we can see where are the schools, where is the challenge, where is the gap. I was really struck by a previous presentation that talked about mobile penetration still being at 70%, and we know that that is the largest kind of broadband penetration that we have. And so we really are looking at a sizable challenge. Now, what we look at is these 6 million schools estimated. No one knows how many schools there are in the world, and we know that estimated half of them. So 3 million schools are not connected today. So it's affecting more than 500 million students that have no access to the internet. And really what we look at is that's not equally spread out. As you know, it's the least developed, the underserved areas, and what happens to those children coming into the next generation of the workforce with no access to connectivity. Now, as I mentioned before, we look at children, we look at schools because of the focus of UNICEF, but we also see schools as a marker of a community. If you can get the service to the school, we can then create maybe a little bit more of an easy market opening in those very underserved areas and those difficult to reach areas. So yes, we're focusing on schools, but look at it as reaching those far away communities, and that's what, half the population of the world still needing service. So how does that partnership look at? And really the focus of this presentation is we're a UN initiative. Our partners are the different governments in countries. We work with two different elements in countries. From the UNICEF side, we work with the Department of Education. From the ITU side, we work with the regulators and the Ministry of ICT. And I guess for most of you working in countries, you know how difficult it is for different different departments to really come together and look at how does this demand for connectivity, how do you roll out in a way that is cohesive. So within the UN system, Giga has really come up as the flagship for connectivity in this space. And in last year, we were also in the Global Digital Compact. We were highlighted as the initiative for connecting schools, but also expanding to health centers. Again, the idea of aggregating this demand of how can we afford, either through public or private investment, to reach those to reach areas or those underserved areas in a way that aggregates that demand so that it's more feasible for those efforts. So how we work is really across the life cycle of connectivity. And I said, as before, we work as a startup within the UN system. That, one of the focuses is developing open source technology. And for that, we are based in Barcelona as a tech hub. We focus on these different elements of the life cycle. So in terms of advocacy, my next slide will show you, we have the largest global map of schools. And just to give you a sense of what that means, we took a sample of 4 countries where we took the databases from the government around where the schools were, and contrasted that with AI mapping, and what we found was that they were missing 20,000 schools. That's just across 4 countries. So really understanding where is the lack of connectivity, where is the connectivity active, is there enough connectivity in the schools that are in underserved areas. So through this live and open platform of information, we can really bring stakeholders together, both from the public and the private sector, to look at the gaps in a cohesive way, as I said. So in terms of planning, we have different modeling tools that look at different technologies, what it would cost to access or extend the connectivity to a certain amount of schools. We have in the procurement part toolkits that really help governments to understand how to best contract the service. In terms of management, we are looking at different technologies in which you can ease the flow of not only the contracting but the payments. We know from private sector that it is difficult to often give services to public institutions because there's a lot of bureaucracy, payments are often delayed. It makes it very difficult to really service that market. And through these open source tools, we're trying to capacitate governments to be able to just make those processes more agile, make it safer for investment to happen. And lastly, in terms of sustaining, we go both back to the map to understand, is the school being sustained on? And we have a couple of initiatives, including the connectivity credits, which look at the carbon credit sort of concept, but look at incentivizing connectivity in areas that typically don't have a large return on investment. This is the map I was talking about, and we've been able to map schools in 140 countries. And we have not only the maps, which the blue dots that you see are school locations. The red dots are locations or schools which we know have no connectivity. The green ones have connectivity. And what we do is not only have static data, but we've been partnering, both developing, different technologies, including our partnership with Ericsson, where we developed a desktop app, which measures the connectivity at a school level. But we're also partnering with providers, internet service providers, to have real-time status updates of whether the school is on and off. And that is where the green dots are. And if you go to giga.global/map, you will see the Giga map, where you can see the pulsating real-time data of schools that are connected. Now, this is really interested not only from an advocacy point of view, where people, different investors, different stakeholders can see what is happening in their country, what is happening globally, but also it's attracting a lot of IFI and DFI funding, where they want to know, is their investment still continuing with, is their investment still giving the results that they invested for? And so, for now, I think we've got, looking at the data here, 95,000 schools which are sharing real-time connectivity data. As you can see here, we're active, very active throughout that life cycle of connectivity, as I mentioned before. We are very active in 34 countries with different products. 8 countries beyond that, we're also collaborating in mapping support and initial kind of understanding of the problem and how to address it. And there's another 10 countries that we are in early activities and engagement with. I wanted to also just give an example of what we are trying to do with companies, really to bring them into this private-public partnership. We have a virtual experience coming up next month on the 24th of April, which is Girls and Women in ICT Day. And we invite you to participate in it. It will be focused as 2 kind of slots for brown paper bag lunches, where you can interact and really see from some of our partners, such as IHS Towers, Equinix, Massorange also will be there, just sharing some of the experience of what it's been like to partner with Giga. And with that, I wanted to just leave a few minutes for a couple of questions.
My name is Matt Ikram. I'm one of the math advisor and program director here. A fascinating challenge, I would say. What would be your call to action to the industry? Is it trying to fill the connectivity gaps, and beyond that, what will be your vision in the next 2 or 3 years around what you want to see happen?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I think we've all seen various data around how much it's going to take, both in investment and effort, and policy change, how much ecosystem shift is going to take to connect the second half of the world. And from our perspective at Giga, we know we can work within the UN system. We can also work within governments in different countries to bring together some of the counterparts that need to work together and often don't have a mechanism to coordinate themselves, such as I said, Ministry of Education regulator also talking to the Ministry of Education and Health. And so we know that we can do that effort, but without private sector, we cannot bridge the digital divide. And so the call to action is really speak to us. Come and join us, see where we can help. We've worked with companies in different ways. We've worked to develop software and some of the technology tools that we have to enable governments to do more effective contracting. We have worked with industry, as I said, internet service providers to understand really what procurement conditions are required to really benefit the schools. What kind of investment are we realistically looking at? And of course, real-time data. We've had incredible collaborations with both infrastructure and service provider companies where they have been able to provide us their data. We can do a mapping, show a government or other IFIs, DFIs, and a real model of where are the schools, where is the infrastructure, where is that gap, and how are we going to bridge it? And that kind of collaboration, is really what we need. And we're very aware, my previous life was actually operating a last mile connectivity network, and I know that grounding solutions is absolutely necessary. We can model what we want, and the UN does that really well, but if it's not with industry's help, where we can ground that in the reality of operating, in the reality of also operating in underserved areas, which, provide multiple challenges. So really the call to action is, please speak to us. My colleague Diego and I will be here after this presentation, and my contacts are here. So let's see where we can collaborate. It's going to take a holistic effort. Thanks.